Thank you. I'm going to talk about page numbers and why it's important that we have a look at that kind of thing. So, what I'm presenting today is an ongoing research exploring how automation limits graphic design situational agency. And it's also a call to recognize these kind of overlooked elements of practice in the field's discourse. And I hope by the end of the talk you understand this sentence. Okay, so my practice is a bit, I'm a design studio, I'm this professorship, and I'm also doing research. So, but the basis for everything is my kind of design studio in Amsterdam, which is a kind of small studio. We are currently 4, sometimes we are 6, kind of breathing in and breathing out. And our main input, or my main output is books. So we are kind of, currently we're 4, so we are 2 women, 2 men. We are from Switzerland, France, and the Netherlands. And so it's, and the books that we do are complex and complicated. So we make very big books, or we make very complicated books and complicated subjects. But I want to talk today about my research. I completed a PhD a few years ago, which dealt with non-specialist practices of map making. So that's amateurs and tech companies who make maps. And I did it because I thought what's happening in map making is also happening in graphic design, but a bit earlier and a bit clearer in map making. And that is that how the technologies impact practice and how the technology impact field. So as part of that, I created this kind of timeline of technologies, and these different technologies, they enable different types of practices. And they create a different kind of parallel pockets of practices. And the one that I'm interested in is this kind of post-designer version of that. So where the designer is, those who kind of operate the tools are no longer trained or have a specialized practice as a designer. And so they use this kind of intelligent automation, this kind of embedded functionalities and templates. Anyone can now produce reasonably professional-looking graphic design. Yet, the embedding of predefined logics, conventions, and functional solutions detached from content has reduced this version of graphic design to clarity, legibility, and balance. Design is so much more than that. It's more than just functional styling. It's situational. It frames content within a typology, an era, or a discourse, and it positions it among other forms of expression. So then, how does design do that? Can graphic design situate kind of content? And I think it does it through its details. It's the elements that kind of that it consists of. And I'm referring back to this 2014 exhibition at the Venice Architecture Biennale by Rem Koolhaas, Elements of Architecture, in which he kind of builds the claim that it's just these small elements like the balcony, the ceiling, the toilet, that actually they are also important to consider rather than the kind of the big concepts or the ideas or the programs. So we should look at these kind of elements. And my claim is that graphic design situates the content it gives form to within cultural and discursive context through its elements and these overlooked details. So my research project is about understanding these kind of elements, and I use the term deciphering to do that. And with deciphering, I mean 2 things. On the one hand, I mean understanding the mechanics of it, revealing what's hidden or overlooked, but also deciphering in the sense of deciphering, taking design back from the digital realm, where it has become standardized and predetermined, and restoring its situational agency. And my first, I'm doing several parallel kind of researches on this, but the first one that I'm doing is this kind of objective research, is the page number 73. Why 73, you might ask? Well, this comes from a kind of an encounter I had a few years ago with someone who was kind of a researcher at a technical university, And he told me, it doesn't matter so much how you design the book, as long as it has 80 pages or more. Because when it has 80 pages, it counts as a kind of academic publication, and then it's kind of validated as such. So for me then, this 80 pages has become kind of the minimum of a book. And then if you think of a book which is a kind of constructed object with folded sheets, thinking of units of sections of 16 pages or 8 pages, page 73 is a kind of crucial page in that kind of book. So it's the middle of a 16-page section. I thought that was kind of, that's why I chose this object to focus on. As you can see here, you see also something of the binding a bit. And I did that research into two paths. I did one more typological, and I also looked into design tools. And I looked at freely available kind of word processing tools. I'm also looking at other tools, but this is the first investigation we did. So free word processing programs, and I'm going to show you all of them. I'm not gonna, but what you see is kind of this. I don't know if you see there's a kind of a light gray zone that is kind of for the text box, and there's also some information about the typeface that's included. And what I hope that you get is that they all more or less look the same. And these kind of softwares, they have 6 positions for the page number. It's at the top or the bottom, left, centered, or right. And that kind of page number is often the one that's kind of also the body typeface. And also there's a lot of kind of similarity also in terms of size. And even if you go to a position, I looked at the kind of the right bottom, the outer kind of bottom position. And if you would kind of plot them all on a page, this is what this would produce. This is the kind of the page number in these kind of programs. Or in detail, this. And if you look at the measurement, it's kind of quite a generous kind of margin around it. It's really focused on laser, on personal printers. It's on a kind of certain kind of line width that's easy to read. And it's also, so that's kind of in itself already kind of interesting, but it's also interesting if you look at where these page numbers can be found in these kind of softwares, and that is more and more hidden in sub-menus. So, and even in contemporary tools where the kind of the page as a concept is kind of hidden. It's more as a kind of web page, and more as a kind of continuous scroll. And the page layout is an optional kind of feature. Okay, so this kind of concludes then the research into the tools, which is of course is ongoing. The typological research is, I looked into the page number of 73 also in books, and these are kind of the criteria I used. I used books that I had myself, so that I could, so I had easy access to them, and I could really, if I wanted to scan them, I could really squeeze the spine, and don't have to worry about it. I looked at books with an identifiable page number 73, and I looked at digital practices for this round. So there's designers who have a specialized training or practice and have a digital practice. But I also focused, because of this situational and this cultural dimension, I also looked at designers who take part in the debates in the field through education, exhibitions, or publications. So what we did is we created a book. We are creating a book. It's not there yet as a kind of method. By scanning the page number 73 at 1-to-1, and we place it on a kind of on a book spread where there's a kind of scan of the page number. There's information about the book, and there's also some kind of diagram that we developed just to give it kind of anatomy, where it's kind of situated on the page. And this then leads to pages like this. And yeah, we have a few hundred of them. I think the goal is to get to 150 good ones, and that really show the range. What I want to do now is I want to kind of look at some of these elements of these aspects of these elements, of these page numbers, in relation to the tools that I presented earlier. So if we think of the margins, I showed you this very generous kind of margin. That is kind of hardly the case in certain kind. There's many kind of books who really designers who really go to the edge, the far edge of the page. Of course, there's the more well-known kind of design books, but also even like functional books like the dictionary, or even looking really to not play safe on the edge. The positions, the kind of the softwares offered these 6 fixed positions, but designers they take a very different approach. For instance, this Karel Martens one, who is just center page. This one, or this one, which is not only center but also huge. Or this one, interestingly, where the kind of the footnote is below the page number, which I think is a very interesting kind of concept. And here, this one of these is very asymmetrical, with the left page bottom center and the right one a bit more freely positioned. Then there's kind of the fight of designers against symmetry. This is this very symmetrical kind of, that's the default setting, very symmetrical, but there's many kind of examples that you probably all know where kind of the page numbers are grouped on one of the 2 pages in all sorts of ways. And this is an interesting example because the page 73 is not a right-hand page, it's a left-hand page because of some different kind of Roman numbers section before. Then the sizes, there's this standard 11-12 point that kind of offered as the body text size. Many examples found that where they are much smaller or considerably larger sizes. The orientation, it's more treating the book more as an object, not this kind of horizontal positioning, but more this turning of the page number. And the typeface, which is as a default setting, it's kind of always the body text typeface. There are examples of using a very different kind of typeface for the page number, where it's completely independent of the content. That's interesting that the book is something else, is a different type of authorship than the authorship of the text. There are a lot of kind of numbers with add-ons that can be very kind of these things around it or attached to it. Sometimes asymmetrical. And I also found that the page number, looking at the page number could be an interesting kind of lens to look at oeuvres of designers. For instance, Karel Martens, understanding Karel Martens through his use of the page number. And I think it's really, especially with Karel, it's really so great to see that it's almost like it summarizes his kind of approach, right? This kind of really this deconstructing of the book through its elements and then playful reinterpretation of it, and that's a kind of a play that continues to go on for everything he makes. Of course, when we were kind of doing this kind of research, and I had this kind of system in mind, that there was some kind of unforeseen outcomes. Things that I didn't foresee. For instance, this is this book designed by Philippe Milot, a French graphic designer, where there are kind of different sizes and different typefaces throughout the book. So how to capture that in a system that only focuses on the single page number. And another one thing that we were doing, because we were kind of making these diagrams and combining them into a kind of typeface for easy use, but somehow this typeface became then a research outcome. The typeface as a research outcome of what this kind of thing is. Okay, so that's, I'm gonna wrap up. Deciphering the page number. So I looked at, yes, I can do that. I'm continuing to look at this kind of this tension between software and the possibilities and the kind of the thinking that is kind of is taking design knowledge. Let's say the conflict between design knowledge and design intelligence. Had this design knowledge that's been embedded into softwares and tools, and that's kind of taking away design intelligence, and that's even for, would even claim for tools like for InDesign, which is kind of that there is also by having so much kind of design knowledge embedded in the tool that it takes away the design intelligence. And on the other hand, my project is about continuing and to kind of elevate and emancipate kind of the page number as a kind of object. So 3 text slides to conclude. So this project seeks to uncover the mechanics of design, the often overlooked details of practice, by identifying, cataloging, and categorizing them as they appear in existing works. It aims not only to analyze these elements, but also to emancipate them, bringing them into disciplinary kind of discourse. And the goal is to move beyond fixed defaults and automated conventions. The design knowledge embedded in software should support rather than constrain creative intelligence. The project seeks to de-digitize these elements of design, restoring interpretive cultural agency to the designer. So the method that I use, or kind of the investigation unfolds through the design and production of books themselves. The book not as an outcome or a container, but as a medium through which design is examined, tested and articulated. Book design becomes both the site and the method of inquiry, a way of thinking through making and of understanding how design situates content in relation to other discourses. Thank you.